This podcast of the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour, presented by Firehouse Subs, is sponsored by AAA Heating and Air.
The premier HVAC company in the Midlands is growing. Are you a top HVAC technician?
AAA Heating and Air is looking for dedicated applicants to fill their fast-growing service department with top-notch HVAC technicians.
If you're the best, then they want you. If you're ready to stop working and start a career, you can earn up to $100,000 plus a year at AAA Heating and Air.
Quality candidates will have at least 2 years experience and a good driving record. Benefits include top industry salaries, commission on service and unit sales, set call limits, company-provided take-home vehicle and gas card, company-provided cell phone and tablet, health, dental, and vision benefits, 401k retirement plan with company match, and scaled PTO based on length of service.
Contact Roy and Dana Finley at 803-677-1500 or check out their job postings on Facebook or ZipRecruiter.
AAA Air when you need us. AAA Heating and Air.
It's the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour with Chris Clark, Wes Mitchell, and Tyler Head on your home of the Gamecocks in Columbia. 107.5 The Game on 100.3 The Game in Myrtle Beach and 100.5 The Game in Florence.
Another hour to go. Come by and see us. Order yourself a delicious Firehouse Subs. Josh is out here with us. He has tickets to give away for 3 of the 4 remaining home games. Clemson's the only one we don't have tickets for, but if you want tickets to Jacksonville State, Vanderbilt, or Kentucky, just literally walk up and say, hey, Josh, give me some tickets, and he will literally... You have to give him your email address. They're electronic. He doesn't have physical tickets to hand over, but you get the point.
So not literally.
Like, kind of literally. He will give you the tickets, but through an electronic transaction.
Out. So get up here fast.
So they're flying off the shelves.
Order a sub.
So you got to come quickly, and yes, get a delicious Firehouse Subs while you're here.
I'm here for it.
It smells like
We're literally here for it.
It smells like bacon and pepperoni.
It's never a bad combo.
At the same time up here. I am ready to dig in, and we're all going to be taking some food home today too.
I know, we're all like looking over at the counters that are preparing the sandwiches for us. It's one of those times you don't eat breakfast before you come here because I'm going to enjoy some delicious Firehouse Subs.
Absolutely. Looks like somebody's about to get some tickets right now.
Ticket now.
Ticket right now.
That's right.
Good
That's
job,
the
Josh.
power of radio.
Proud of you, man.
Or the fact that he was standing in the store listening to us.
Yeah, that's right. Either way, that works.
Obviously, we listened to Clayton White in the first hour, react to what he had to say. Dow Loggins spoke yesterday as well. And obviously the offense, we talked about if you score 37 points at home, you should usually win a lot of those games. Unfortunately, that didn't happen this past Saturday, and Dow Loggins was rightfully frustrated with not picking up the victory. One guy that's come along a lot through these first 6 games of the season, and we talked about it a lot going into the season, was Trey Knox and the tight end position in general. And Coach Loggins spoke a little bit about Trey Knox yesterday and how he's played through the first half of the season. Here's what Coach Loggins had to say.
He's really intelligent, and he knows the offense as well as anyone. He was with us at Arkansas, so he knows a little bit of the stuff we brought from Arkansas, and he's just a really bright guy. So he learns fast. So he's a calming presence in the huddle, and he can go in there and coach the tight ends. That's how sharp he is. He can tell the wideouts where to get lined up, and so then all of a sudden you're playing some younger guys, and he's breaking the huddle. And there's been times when he's told Spencer, whoa, check it the other way. He's just sharp, and so it's a very calming. He has a calming presence for Spencer. He's a guy who knows what to do. He knows how to do it. There's things in his game that he needs to continue to improve, and we're working on. But he's smart, tough, and dependable, and that's what you're looking for, and that's what he gives us. And to his credit, he's 15 catches in 2 games, and he's done a nice job for us. He's an important part of this offense, and his presence allows us to play some younger guys, just like Rashawn playing next to Tro. It allows Nick and Tyshawn and some of those guys to get out there because when he's on the field with them, he can also help and direct them.
And we talk so much about this passing game, and especially where you've been missing Juice Wells for pretty much the entire season, and we may not get him back for the rest of the year at all. A guy like Trey Knox has stepped up tremendously, particularly in these past 2 games. Dow Loggins mentioned 15 catches over the past 2 games and right at 100 yards with a touchdown this past weekend against Florida. Trey Knox has been such a great addition to this offense, and we're, again, seeing him evolve and get more and more involved as weeks go by.
He's had his 2 best games since he got to Columbia, I think, and you're starting to see him really emerge, at least the last 2 weeks, as the second receiver target in this offense. Also, I don't know what he graded out as a blocker, but there were a couple of times that my eyes were just kind of fixated on Knox moving people in the running game as well. So it felt like he had a good game in that department as well. Joshua Simon makes a big play, the catch and run, putting his shoulder into a guy and just running him over in what you thought might kind of be the exclamation point of the game for South Carolina, kind of the put-away touchdown. That was not to be. But these tight ends have started to come on. I think that's big. It just gives you another weapon. I think we're starting to see Spencer Rattler kind of focus on Knox a little bit when teams take away Leggett, and they're going to need to continue to do that. He's a great third down target for you. It seems like they were trying to give him the ball in space a couple times as well, and there were some open field opportunities for him where Florida was able to get him on the ground, or he would have had, I think, an even bigger day. But we've seen this offense start to find some balance, I think, and that's you're not just getting the ball to one receiver. You're getting Knox involved, and then obviously you're getting Mario Anderson incredibly involved in the running game as well. So that was, to me, probably the best we've seen this South Carolina offense look against a legit defense.
We saw some two tight end looks as well. I mean, offense played 66 snaps. Trey Knox was on the field a lot. He was on the field for 58 of them. But Josh Simon was on the field for 22. So sometimes that's, I don't know. I don't have it in front of me, Wes. Maybe they didn't have a tight end on the field at times, but I think almost every situation they probably did. But those numbers also indicate, and the eye test indicates, they had two tight ends at times. So I do think the bye week was good for the offense because they were able to make, we saw the offensive line tweaks. We saw them tweak some other things with, more gap scheme runs. They were looking at personnel usage. Who do we need to get more involved? And you look at the receiver numbers, generally the same guys. Nick Harper played 28 snaps, so he played more than he has been. But also it seems like there was maybe a little bit more of a concerted effort to, hey, let's find a way to get Trey Knox and Josh Simon involved. This is a couple guys that have talent, and they obviously have a lot of college football experience as well. So if you're looking for some guys to pick up some extra targets, makes a lot of sense to try to go more in that direction.
Concerted effort, I thought, to get Juju McDowell in space and use him. They used him, I think, the best we've seen in a couple of years, honestly. And, it seemed to me, I think, Chris, they slid Tyshawn Russell, from what I could tell, into the slot, which we've actually seen him play outside. He was playing a good bit more in that slot role. So I think for them, there were definitely changes during the bye week. And that again, probably speaks back to the frustration for South Carolina fans that you had a lot of things going your way in this game. You had the offensive performance you needed. You had the lead. And, you had a running game. You had the passing game. You expect to win those games at home. And I thought Mario Anderson had his best game as well. Like, he has really started to get comfortable. He's running through people. He's making people miss. He's making good decisions, I think. He's not having those little plays where he kind of gets tripped up like we saw against Mississippi State. He has started to build confidence, I think. And a little tease to our buy or sell for tomorrow, you kind of have a really cool battle on opposite sides of D2 transfer backs. Yeah. Both guys who have been walk-ons at various points in their career, in Missouri's Cody Schrader versus South Carolina's Mario Anderson.
Quickly, you guys are talking about the tight ends and their blocking, especially when it comes to gap schemes. Both Josh Simon as well as Trey Knox graded out right about 60, which, there's still some room for improvement there, but that's pretty in par with just about how everybody else is grading out on those run blocks on Saturday. So pretty good overall.
Yeah, those guys have continued to come along, and you don't hear as much, listening to Beamer, listening to Dowell Loggins. You remember early in the season with a lot of the blocking issues, sometimes it was looped into, hey, our tight ends missed some blocks. You feel like you hear less of that. And so I feel like, as Loggins said, Knox knows this offense. He's been with Loggins. He's a smart guy. He knows some of the Arkansas-based elements that they have brought into this offense. And so it appears that they're getting kind of more and more comfortable. By the way, Mario Anderson note, I want to make sure we threw this in because I've gotten this question a lot lately. A lot of people have been asking if he has another year of eligibility. He's listed as a redshirt senior on his official bio. He does have another year, I verified. So just to let everybody know, if you like what you've seen from Mario Anderson, you may get another year of it.
Well, I think he very quickly has become a guy that you're saying, hey, Do
Need
what
him.
you can to keep this guy around and get him here for another year. I do think, as I'm bragging on the tight ends, to be completely fair, I think there was a missed cutoff backside block on the final drive of the game. I know Beamer didn't say who it was, but I think that was tight end.
That was mentioned. You're right.
So that was tight end room. But still, there were some other blocks from the tight end group that were, I thought, really, really good. And so, they've come on. I think the thing they did during the break is they kind of identified where do we stand with guys, who can we really focus on, and then it worked. So now can you take it on the road?
Yeah, and Elijah and I talked about this yesterday. When you go back to Beamer's injury report from Monday, nothing was mentioned about Juice Wells. And, seems like maybe you're leaning a little bit more towards not getting him back at all this year. So it comes to the point, and in fact, they had the bye week last week to, really focus in on some things like, okay, he's not going to come back. How, or likely not going to come back, how can we focus other areas and expand the passing game? And again, you're seeing guys like Trey Knox step up into more of an expanded role in these past couple of weeks.
And that's what we thought we were going to get from Trey Knox to start the year. We talked about these tight ends all offseason, what they were doing in practice, what they were doing in the spring. Beamer did confirm on the SEC teleconference yesterday that, Juice is out again this week for sure. So not questionable, but definitely out. And so I think you had to say, look, who can help you win right now? You know what Leggett can do, but teams are going to do everything they can to try to take Leggett away. And so, getting Nicholas Harbor involved for a ball down the field, I still think, I've been saying it, I still think Tyshawn Russell is going to continue to come on. And so you do have some weapons on this offense. And I think credit to Dow Loggins for kind of putting it all together while adjusting in the same sentence there. And the big thing you kind of are concerned about this week, y'all, is that Vershawn Lee may not be able to play. And it's just it's like a kick to the shin, I feel like, for your group that has struggled. You found a combination you liked, and then you get it for 2 quarters.
That's not to say that it was fixed. It could have been that they roll out the same lineup for the next 5 games and it doesn't go as well. But you saw the changes. Spencer Rattler said after the game in his postgame, like, he loved the changes, right? He thought they worked, and it allowed them. Dow Loggins said, remember, hey, the reason we were able to make some of these changes to add some more volume and some different elements to the run game is because of the changes we made, right? Having a couple guys at guard and Trey Jones and Trey Ball who could move, they felt like they can make those. So the question is, can they continue that? You've been searching so bad for continuity. You made some changes. You feel like you found it, at least for a half, and then you may not have that capability anymore. So it's been one thing after another on the offensive line in terms of the injuries that's really held them back.
Want to get to another thing that Dow Loggins talked about yesterday coming up, and he had a really good explanation for this. Dow Loggins does a very good job of explaining his thought process on a lot of things, and he talked about one of the last offensive drives they had on Saturday. So we'll let you listen to what Dow Loggins had to say about that coming up. Again, we're broadcasting live out at Firehouse Subs here in Lexington, 109 Old Chapin Road. We do have tickets to give away. Shout out to our guy Nelson that claimed some tickets to the Kentucky game a few minutes ago. Literally was standing in the store waiting on his sandwich and came over here and said, hey, Josh, give me some tickets. And guess what? Josh gave some tickets. It's literally that simple. Come by and see us broadcasting until noon. Tyler, Weston, and Chris here on The Game.
We're all juggling life, a career, and trying to build a little bit of wealth. The Brown Ambition podcast with host Mandy and Tiffany the Budgetnista can help.
If I do even consider lending, I always ask myself, will this solve the problem? So I know you don't have your money for mortgage because you don't have a job. So what happens next month? Oh, I don't know. I'm going to have to think about the next month. Now, it's another thing if you're like, hey, Tiffany, I have $1,000 left to pay my car and then I'm car note free and I'll be able to pay you back, the 3 months I used to pay my car note. That solves the problem.
Brown Ambition.
Wherever you listen.
At Southern Company, we know the right solutions start with the right questions. How do we deliver reliable energy and overcome unpredictable challenges? How do we get to net zero carbon emissions and ensure communities thrive? How do we deliver affordable energy today and tomorrow? Southern Company, building the future of energy.
It's the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour with Chris Clark, Wes Mitchell, and Tyler Head on your home of the Gamecocks in Columbia, 107.5 The Game. Also heard on 100.3 The Game in Myrtle Beach and 100.5 The Game in Florence.
Welcome back in. It is the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour presented by Firehouse Subs. Tyler, Wes, and Chris. Broadcasting live out at Firehouse Subs in Lexington, 109 Old Chapin Road. Going until noon, as I've said, our guy Josh out here with us. Has tickets to give away. Literally, all you got to do is walk up and say, hey, Josh, I want tickets to go see South Carolina, Kentucky. And he'll be like, here you go. Or Vanderbilt, or Jacksonville State, whatever. Your heart's content, come up and ask for it. He will hand them over to you, and, of course, you can enjoy some delicious Firehouse Subs. I just had the brisket and bacon one in the last break, and it's brisket and bacon. You can't really go wrong with that.
That's a custom, too, Tyler.
It was absolutely delicious. 10 out of 10.
Yeah, that is an invention. Wes, that's actually, I think, a Larry Chandler invention, owner-operator.
One he encouraged.
He very much encouraged it.
Larry put me on that one.
Yeah, that is an outstanding one. We have an array over here. And shout out to our guy, Nelson. He came by and got himself a sandwich and got some tickets, too. So congrats to him.
We were listening to a little bit of Dow Loggins at the last segment. You'll be able to hear from Coach Beamer one more time tonight on Carolina Calls, coming up at 6 o'clock ahead of this weekend's game against Missouri. And following that, you have coverage of Thursday Night Football between the Jaguars and the Saints. Pregame coverage starting at 7:30 right here on the game. A little bit more from Dow Loggins. I mentioned this just for the break there. You go back to the end of the game last weekend. A lot of people were very critical of South Carolina's decisions with about 4 minutes to go when it came to the offense. Of course, gave the ball back to Florida. They went down and scored, took the lead, and won the game. Dow Loggins gave a very detailed description of that 4-minute offense yesterday. Here's what he had to say.
Yeah, it was a role of, what is it going to take to win this game? What was the score at that point? 37-30, 37-34? Chances are they get the ball back, and they're scoring points too. So it's not. I think there's three different ways to play 4 minute. This is how I see 4 minute. There's a game where you call your 3 best runs, regardless of what's happening. There's the one where you call the first play and see what happens, and then there's the hey, we better call our 3 best plays. And when you're playing a tier 1 quarterback, you're playing an offense that's scoring points. If you don't do that and you punt it back to them and say, hey, go win it, defense. Yeah, it's on y'all. Y'all go. We ran our 3 plays and punted it back. This happened to us in Chicago. We're playing the Lions, tier 1 quarterback Matthew Stafford. I think it was very similar. I think it might have been 34-37, and we ran the ball 3 times, punted it back to Stafford. Megatron go score. Minute 14, they win the game, beat us. It was 38-37 or something like that. And so every game's played differently. And when a team's scoring on you, it's complimentary football. It's 3 phases. And that's why we need to finish that last drive. But it's also, look, we trust number 7. He's our best player. So let's put the ball in his hands. The offensive line did a great job. Mario did a great job. But number 7's a guy. And let's dance who brought us. And he played. He's seeing the field well. He was doing some good things. That was a super aggressive shot. Super aggressive. But at that point, that's what it was. It was we could have run the ball 3 times, punted to him, and I could have sat in the press box and drank a Diet Coke saying, I hope we hold him. But at that point, we felt like the best thing to win the game and communicating with Coach Beamer is let's be aggressive and let's see if we can put something together right here and flip the field and put them back, worst case scenario, or go try to make this a 2-possession game again.
Very good detailed description there from Dow Loggins, and I went back and looked. So that 2015 is when he was with the Bears. That was a 37-34 overtime loss to Detroit, actually. The Bears got the ball back with about 8 minutes to go, went 3 and out, punted it back to the Lions, who proceeded to go down the field in the final 4 minutes of the game, tie it with a field goal, and then win the game in overtime. But, it's very easy to look at what happened on Saturday and say, well, that was dumb. Why did they take a shot down the field or whatever? You should have done this, and that. But when you hear him describe his thought process, it's a little bit more of, okay, I see what you're going for there.
Yeah, were people that negative about
there was a fair amount of people that were questioning it.
I think in some ways at that point you're just running your offense. You're trying to run some clock out, but I don't think you can say run the ball 3 times, give the ball back to those guys the way, frankly, the way you're playing on defense and the way they're playing on offense. the best case scenario there is that you get a couple first downs and just ice this thing out. And I thought one thing Dow Loggins does a phenomenal job of is just giving you some details on the thought process and even kind of going big picture there. Hey, some 4-down or 4-minute situations, if this has been a defensive battle, and let's say you have a 7-point lead and it's 17-10 and you're just like, man, these two defenses, this has been a defensive ball game. You may say, hey, run it 3 times, get as much, make them burn timeouts. We trust where our defense is at right now. And like you said, some of them are kind of in between, and some of them you're saying, no, go win this game on offense. And you just saw Florida go down the field and score. He did a good job of expressing that without throwing his defense under the bus as well by saying, look, hey, they got a Tier 1 quarterback. They have a great quarterback. Not saying, hey, our defense has just given up almost 500 yards. So I think the problem there is just the execution is that you were not able to get another first down. They did get the 1 first down off of a roughing the passer penalty, but you're really hoping. If anything, I would have maybe liked them to be even a little bit more aggressive, honestly.
I didn't have a problem with the decision to run an offense at all, given exactly what you said. I mean, put it into context. The previous drive, Florida was down 10, and they had just gone 75 yards in 14 plays and scored, to pull it within, 3? I mean, they converted that fateful 4th down, the 4th and 11. They converted a 4th and 1. And then they scored a touchdown on a second goal from the SC4, right? The one thing I would say, and this is I don't know. I think maybe it's more of an execution issue is kind of what I'm getting down to. I think maybe in that instance, as Dowell kind of said, hey, that was a very aggressive shot, right? Mm-hmm. So I think the nitpick would be if you've got a shot on, let's make sure the ball's not thrown in that situation, right? And that's kind of a hindsight thing.
Yeah, and I think we've seen Rattler go to progression 1, 2, 3, 4 all season long. I think the nitpick there is that you threw it into double coverage. I mean, you maybe come underneath. I don't remember the coverage or what the rest of the route trees even looked like, but
and they got the roughing the passer on that one.
Yeah.
So I mean,
it didn't end up hurting them. It did. The entire stadium held their breath as that ball was in the air because you could see that there were 2 Florida defenders and 1 Carolina player, and he was not open at all.
And the one, the other nitpick, in hindsight, you got the roughing the passer, right, because you passed the ball. But I would say you got, 5 yards on that first down? I think it was so 2nd and 5. Maybe you do run the ball again because you got 5 yards. Yeah, that's a nitpick, right?
Yeah.
So, hindsight.
Yeah.
I don't have a problem with the strategy of what they did.
Yeah. You scored 37 offensive points in this game.
Yeah.
By sort of being balanced and throwing the ball around and running the football and doing all types of different things. So, to me, I really have trouble finding much fault on the offensive side. And one of the runs you're saying, hey, we're going to get Leggett the ball, our best player, without sort of the danger of throwing the ball around. That play had worked earlier in the game. That they've had a lot of success getting him the ball in the backfield or kind of on a reverse or jet sweep the last 2 seasons. So it didn't quite execute it, but it is what it is.
Yeah, and I think, look, you score that many points, you should win the game. And again, I'll go back to what Logan said. He kind of said this without saying, hey, we didn't think the defense could get a stop. But obviously, him communicating with Beamer, him sitting there watching the game, I think everybody knew at that point, man, this thing's kind of turned to where
we're winning on offense.
Yeah, we're having a tough time stopping Florida. We don't want to give them the ball back, immediately and have them be able to go down and score. So I agree with the strategy. You'd rather not be in that situation. But it is what it is.
Yeah, absolutely. And I thought that was a really good description from Dow Loggins. Wanted everybody to get a chance to hear that. Coming up, Sam Pittman was asked a very interesting question in regards to recruiting yesterday. I want to let you guys hear what he had to say and get your reactions as well. Again, it's the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour presented by Firehouse Subs. We're broadcasting live out at Firehouse Subs, 109 Old Chapin Road. Come by and see us. Going to be here until noon for about another half hour here on the game.
In 1995, veteran police officer Michael Chappell was convicted of armed robbery and murder and has spent the past 30 years in prison. The true crime podcast, In the Land of Lies, explores the untold side to this story, one that could prove Michael Chappell is actually innocent. See why people are calling In the Land of Lies incredible, phenomenal, and a must-hear podcast. Binge the entire series now, and new episodes are coming soon. Imperative Entertainment presents In the Land of Lies. Get the podcast wherever you listen.
What you're talking about. Sponsored by Love Chevrolet. On your home of the Gamecocks. In Columbia, 107.5 The Game. Also heard on 100.3 The Game in Myrtle Beach. And 100.5 The Game in Florence.
Welcome back in. It is the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour presented by Firehouse Subs. Tyler, Wes, and Chris along with you out here at Firehouse Subs in Lexington, 109 Old Chapin Road, going until noon. I had to stop myself. I was eating the turkey bacon ranch during that last break and realized we're coming back and have to slow myself down because it's such a delicious stuff.
Slow your roll, Tyler.
I can't control myself.
I know it's hard. I know it's difficult.
Again, we got tickets to give away. Shout out to Luke and his mom that just came by and picked up some tickets for the Kentucky game. Our guy Steve sitting in here enjoying delicious Firehouse Subs, got some tickets as well. And again, got plenty more to give away if you can get here in the next 30 minutes. Mentioned this before the break. Sam Pittman in his weekly press conference yesterday was posing an interesting question because Arkansas, I talked about their losing streak earlier, has been away from home for the past month. Mm-hmm. Now, they were listed as the home team against A&M. That game was played in Jerry World. Now, I know neutral site games, you can have some recruits on there visiting, but you're obviously not there to show them your facilities and the campus and all that kind of stuff. It's a little bit of a different story. So here is what Sam Pittman had to say about being away from home for a full month when it comes to recruiting.
Let's face the facts. In order to keep your girlfriend and you don't see her for 5 weeks and she's had a chance to see this guy, she going to leave you. I mean, unless you're, whoever, Elvis Presley or whoever. And so we've got to get them here. We're trying to get them here, but we got to get back with them and get around them. But I commend our coaching staff and the kids that are staying with us because they're loyal and the belief that they have in the football program. But it is hard. It's really hard.
Now, South Carolina does not have that issue. In fact, they have the 4-game homestand to close out the season. But very much you can understand where Sam Pittman's coming from there. I've never heard anybody put it quite like that, like it's trying to hang on to your girlfriend and she's off seeing other guys for the month that you're away from home. But, again, for a program like that we talked about is struggling, when you don't have a home game for a solid month, you run the risk of losing some of those guys.
Well, I didn't have an Elvis Presley reference on my bingo card for today's show.
That's very on brand.
Probably should have for Pittman.
Yeah, for Pittman, I mean, very, very well done.
That's what he plays in the jukebox.
So, I will say this. To continue, maybe this is dangerous, I don't know. To continue his analogy here.
Uh-oh.
Your girlfriend might be slightly more okay with not seeing you when you're off, doing great things, off being heroic, off winning games. But I think when you have the added side of this, not seeing her, all right, I'm done with the analogy, but
when you tried to make it work,
when you're not seeing these prospects in person, but they're seeing, man, these guys may not win an SEC game. That is a bad combination for you because we know how quickly it can turn. We know how quickly kind of the narrative around your team and the trajectory can turn. And we frankly know how these other SEC schools are going to pounce when they smell blood in the water. So I think they definitely will benefit from getting those guys. And I'm sure they did everything they could to try and get their committed guys on campus for this game. And it's a game you can win.
Arkansas 20th nationally in the team rankings, on 3 industry team rankings. 20th nationally. Sounds pretty good. 11th in the SEC. Just kind of how it is. Remember that 2007 class, South Carolina finished, I think, 6th or 7th nationally, and that was 4th in the SEC.
What? Carolina's what?
Carolina
19th nationally, I think 10th in the SEC. So.
Yep. So they're right there. You know, South Carolina with some room to move up. South Carolina will have a heavy portal class, right? Eli Drinkwitz, next opponent. Missouri talked about this, and some of their 2023 guys that they brought in, like South Carolina, Missouri's had some guys that have been contributing early. And Eli Drinkwitz pointed out, hey, we didn't have the highest ranked recruiting class last year because we brought in some transfer portal guys. They lost some guys off that team. Dominic Lovett, you know, going to play for Georgia. Lost Trajan Jeffcoat, who's now playing for Arkansas. But they brought in some really good players as well from the portal. A couple offensive linemen, some other impact guys for them.
God, can y'all imagine if Lovett was in this receiving corps too? Like, I mean, it is a loaded, like, seriously, Gamecock fans, when you watch this game, watch their offense. Like, yeah, there's going to be some moments where you're saying, defense, there's another guy open. Watch their receivers, though, man. Like, they have done a fantastic job of recruiting receivers both from the high school ranks and from the portal ranks. And I think it just shows you what you're up against week in, week out. Like, this is not Alabama. This is not Georgia. This is not LSU. This is Missouri, and they are getting talent like this. So, I mean, it is harder and harder to match up in this league, I think, than ever.
And let's go back to what we were talking about earlier with Jeremy, right? And the notion that, hey, NIL, yeah, some people are saying I'll participate after you win games. Well, Missouri, they've got a creative state law. They've done a great job of keeping kids in state with the state law, but even before, right? Luther Burden's from Missouri. Mookie Cooper is a transfer from Ohio State, but originally from St. Louis. Theo Weiss is a transfer. As we know, transfer portal, NIL, quite important for guys like that. So they have kept kids at home, and they've worked the transfer portal, and then they've gone out and made really good evaluations. They've hit on some other guys. But Missouri went 6-7 the past 2 years. They didn't wait around and say, we'll see what happens. If we win some games, you know, maybe we'll do some NIL stuff. No, they were forward. They looked forward, kept their eyes forward, started building it up, and they've been able to land some guys, keep some guys, and then bring some guys in from the portal as well.
And dare I say, they're using South Carolina's blueprint to winning. I mean, from a roster building standpoint, it's evaluation plus in-state, plus using the portal to get impact guys. And something that caught my attention yesterday, they are also now trying to steal margins from South Carolina with special teams. I really think that teams have looked around and said, man, what can we do to try and gain an edge? And it's kind of one of those things when you're not that South Carolina invented being good on special teams, but when you're stealing points, stealing possessions from special teams, when everybody takes notice, this is like in business too, when you're doing something to get a little bit of edge, everybody else says, oh, what are they doing to do that? Yeah. And they start to kind of copy you a little bit. So Eric Link, Missouri special teams coordinator, which sounds like a made-up name in NCAA football, they're being very bold with their special teams decisions. And even running some of the same exact plays as South Carolina on special teams.
Well, that was their spark last week. They were down 14-0 to Kentucky early in the second quarter. Run that fake punt for a touchdown, and that woke the rest of the team up. And they go on a 38-7 run to close out the game. So, and I know Harrison Mevis has missed some of the shorter stuff, but he knocked down the 61-yard field goal against Kansas State to win that game. Like, this is a good special teams unit that it rarely does South Carolina have equality factor with some of the teams they go up against with special teams, but Saturday could be just that for them.
Yeah, I think it's dangerous, man, because we've seen South Carolina kind of feel the effects of losing some guys on special teams. And you may say, Wes, well, they got their kicker back, they brought their punter back, their holder, their snapper. However, look at all the other guys and compare it this year to last year. Kick coverage, punt coverage, different personnel out there for the most part. Their gunners are different, and I think we've seen that a little bit, whether it's the turnover or whether it's just Kai Kroger having a little bit of a slump at this point, I think you would call it. So South Carolina is going to need to re-find their special teams advantage moving forward. I think not that their special teams have been bad.
Right.
That's more of a matter of the expectations we have put on it, and that it's a compliment, really, that Pete Limbo has created that standard so far at South Carolina.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about this yesterday a little bit on our podcast, Tyler, with Kai Kroger. Like, it's kind of a victim of your own success thing, right? Like, most punters go through a game, you might not have a perfect punt every time. Maybe you shank one. Maybe you're kind of inconsistent. For him, the standard that has been set in some people's minds is he's going to go out and play like he did against Clemson every single game, and it's not realistic. Now, does it need to get better? Does he need to get more consistent? Sure. Last year, guys, when South Carolina special teams was better and more dynamic, Missouri played them even in special teams, and that actually ended up making, I think, a big difference in the game, because for the Gamecocks, you were struggling offensively, you had struggles defensively, you needed to be able to find a spark somewhere, and you weren't able to use special teams to your advantage in that game. You might not be as equipped to do it this year, but I think now South Carolina's going into this one saying you at least got to play that third of the game even.
Absolutely, and we'll continue to break down the Missouri matchup coming up tomorrow. We'll have buy or sell for our usual Football Friday segment and give you the final details as well as our final scores. All that coming up tomorrow. As we close out today's edition of the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour, presented by Firehouse Subs, I want to give props to a former Gamecock who had another big accomplishment last night. That's coming up. You're listening to the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour, presented by Firehouse Subs, broadcasting from the Firehouse Subs in Lexington, 109 Old Chapin Road, going until noon here on the game.
My teammates, we lean on each other so much at this time. We fought through so much adversity throughout the season, and we just kept the mind thing. We kept the main thing, and we came out on top. And I can't express how proud I am of my teammates. They picked me up when I was down. We cried together, prayed together, and now we popping champagne together!
All right, welcome back into the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour, presented by Firehouse Subs. Tyler, West, and Chris out at Firehouse Subs here in Lexington, 109 Old Chapin Road. A couple more minutes to go. Josh had to dip out, but Ebony is still here. If you can come by in the next couple of minutes, she'll get you set up with some tickets to either Jacksonville State, Kentucky, or Vanderbilt. Again, those are the final couple home games coming up here in a couple of weeks. That was the voice of Gamecock legend Asia Wilson last night after the Las Vegas Aces won their second straight WNBA Finals, and she was named WNBA Finals MVP. Double-double, 24 points, 16 rebounds, and the legend of Asia Wilson just continues to grow.
Yeah, scored the last basket, too, I believe. Averaged, 24 points and 11.8 rebounds in the finals, and adds, her trophy case is bigger than my house at this point. Like, she's accomplished everything. There's a statue. I don't know what else you had. They need a new league for her to dominate, because she has dominated this one. Her team has dominated this one, and congrats to them. She is the face of the WNBA and should have been regular season MVP as well.
Elena Coates also,
yes,
getting herself a ring. So Asia Wilson's done it. What else can you do? What's your next act?
Who knows? Did y'all see
movies?
Hey, maybe so.
Hey,
transition to Hollywood. Did y'all see the video of Dawn at the game last night? Just losing her mind, getting the rare opportunity to be a fan at a basketball game, and she was into it, man.
Dawn's had a fun week, man. She was at the World Series, throwing out the first pitch, or the championship series. Throwing out the first pitch, and met the Kelseys.
Mm-hmm.
Has she met Taylor Swift yet?
Don't believe so.
Okay.
I think she listens to Taylor Swift.
I don't know.
She didn't strike me as the poppy type of person.
Courtside for the finals, and she tweeted out that she could say whatever she wants to the refs now.
Oh yeah,
yeah. I got a feeling Dawn says whatever she wants to the refs anyway. But she
didn't have her piece of paper this time.
The rolled up paper.
And
the candy.
She had candy.
Exactly.
Courtside.
No Diet Coke.
The number of her players. We had Zia Cook on last week.
Yep.
Number of players from her program that are now fulfilling their dream and are in the WNBA it's insane list. But Asia, she has literally, to use Tyler's word, done it all.
Do you remember being you were there, right? At Heathwood when she committed to South Carolina?
Yes, I was there.
It was loud.
It was actually very, very similar to the feeling when Marcus Lattimore committed to South Carolina for football.
You just had the feeling that you were seeing some kind of like historical event.
You were seeing greatness.
And that's exactly what it was, because Asia Wilson was an early buy-in to what Dawn Staley was doing, and she turned down. UConn, right? Like that was the one, and then everybody else to stay home. And when that happened, you kind of got a sense of the gravity of the moment. And it's been cool to see. She's one of those people who lived up to the hype too. Like we talk about Bryce Harper, LeBron James. Like they get that's a little bit more to the extreme, but those get Sports Illustrated covers saying the chosen one, and they both live up to those billings. Asia Wilson has lived up to the billing.
The term generational talent can get thrown around a little too much sometimes when you talk about the LeBrons, the Bryce Harpers, and I think Asia Wilson joins that conversation too, where they live up to it to a T, not only with their college career, but going to the next level as well.
Yeah, people forget what generational talent actually means. There can't be a generational talent in every class. No. But, dude, I repeat myself again. I don't know what's her encore. But she has become a household name that goes beyond her sport.
Right.
So I think movies. I think she probably has the brand and the market to expand past.
And she's got the personality too. She's an outgoing person, very engaging, good with crowds and stuff like that. Like she could transition into Hollywood very easily if she wanted to do that.
Wes look at this idea. You just projecting that. I like it.
There, I don't know.
She's on bags of chips when you go to the grocery store.
It's a big deal.
Yeah, it is. Like she's got that brand and name recognition, and I like how you said it, Wes. Like face of the WNBA, face of women's college basketball, which is cool, and a local person from Columbia, 27 years old, and has done all these things so far. And I gotta say, Wes, we cover as much as we cover recruiting. This is a great recruiting pitch for Dawn Staley. Will continue to be.
She has, according to Chris Wellbaum, an NCAA and WNBA championship, a gold medal, College Player of the Year, Final Four MVP, WNBA MVP, Defensive Player of the Year, and now Finals MVP as well.
Is that it?
Youngest player ever to have 2 MVPs, 2 Defensive Players of the Year, and a Final MVP, and one of just 7 players all time.
Unreal.
So, yeah. What do you even add?
You can't. An unbelievable list of accomplishments, and yeah, I'm only going to continue to add to that.
I don't know.
There's nothing to add. It's almost a walk-off.
Yeah, it's a mic drop.
Yeah, pretty much. That I wonder if she had that prepared, what she said in that little piece that we heard there, because that was good.
That's the impromptu acting.
Maybe so.
That had to be probably that.
Or scripted acting.
That had to be planned.
Maybe so. Hey, when you're that successful, I'm going to win today, and this is what I'm going to say when I win. So,
shout out. They expected it.
Absolutely. Shout out to Asia Wilson and the Vegas Aces with their second straight WNBA title. That'll do it for today's edition of the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour presented by Firehouse Subs. Thanks so much to Larry Chandler, everyone at Firehouse Subs, for allowing us to be out here in Lexington. Have a Football Friday tomorrow on the game.
Inside Look at Hollywood with Michael Rosenbaum.
Let's get inside of Anthony LaPaglia. My grandmother will be 95 in June.
I haven't drank water in 95 years. Look at me. Do I need water?
You look a little dehydrated.
A little bit. Your skin's a little dry. And when I do drink, it bores me.
Yeah.
Just drinking it, I start to nod off.
Inside of You with Michael Rosenbaum. Wherever you listen.